Today we're going to do what's called continuous line drawing, which is going to be based on this image here. And again, I might define a particular area, which I might choose roughly as this area here. And I'm going to focus mostly on just a single apple with a central composition. So actually I might just fold this to make it easier to see. Now, roughly in this sort of composition here, I might include some of that that cloth in the background possibly. But we shall see where the journey takes us. So basically a central composition like this, and I'll start by sketching it with the pencil. Today we're also listening to Björk's Vespertine album. There's what seems to be continuous line drawings on the cover of that, and I think that the feeling of it tends to match quite well the kinds of feelings and ideas that you can get from this particular technique. So starting with just some simple sketches just to define the shapes and the forms here, because with a continuous line drawing you're essentially trying to capture the contours of the object. So I'd need to know where all those contours are with a simple little sketch. So this sketch ought to do it, and then I will straight away launch into continuous line. Now essentially what we're going to try and do is give it a three-dimensional look, but because we're not taking our pen off the paper at any time, we end up with a whole lot of lines in there that may not at first appear to be necessary, but we're going to try and focus a lot of those lines into the shadow and the shade where this is here. So without further ado, I'm going to start by just applying my continuous line and seeing where it's going to take me. Now this apple's quite good to draw, which is why I've chosen it for this particular technique, because there's a whole heap of little contours all over it which are quite nice to draw. Now, as with most images, trying to capture the contours and the shapes and the forms is obviously very important, but with this you need to be a bit more experimental. Now at this point I'm going to start getting some of my shadow happening by focusing and concentrating that shadow in there. But again, you can see that I'm trying to be a little loose. But still also define the shapes in a basic way. So trying to get the roundness of the shapes here. Okay, so I left off about here. Now you can easily overdo it here. Sometimes simplicity is key to try and make it so that the shapes stay nice and simple. And too many lines and you start to lose the delicacy of those individual lines. Just trying to focus here on getting those shadows. And I'm almost feeling like if I do too much more, then I'll lose it a little bit. So I'm going to just try and finish up soon. And then we'll see where it takes us after that. Maybe something in the background we'll need to eventuate. Maybe a bit more on the stem. try to get some three-dimensionality in the stem too, perhaps like a bit of shadow here, and work it and overwork it a bit so that I've got some shade. Then I might go across here a little bit and get a lot more working in here, because it's quite dark on that part of the apple. We want to create a bit of form. Maybe I'll put something foreign and weird coming up there like that. Like the two are stretching out towards each other here and here. I think I need that roundness up there to be defined a bit. And this shadow here needs to be prominent. Might put a bit of shadow over there. A bit of shadow over here. I feel I'm getting into dangerous territory of possibly overworking it, so I'm just going to put a bit there. Just to try and get a bit of dark tonal work in here. A bit of contrast, especially where the light part of the stem happens. I think I'm getting close to ending this. Whoops, that doesn't feel right. I think I should stop, or I'm going to ruin it. Just a little bit of very dark tonal work down here, I think. And then I'll stop completely. Just a little reflection off the table there, perhaps. I think that'll do. Perhaps a little down here, just a hint of shadowing coming out there, just to show how the shadow falls on the table. Just to ground it a little bit. I feel it's just floating too much. And I'll try and make sure that the lines here are quite horizontal and pretty different to the ones on the apple itself. I think that ought to do. Continuous line.